let's make sure we got everything. Make sure it's going live. Make sure it's going live. Boom, we got it. All right, welcome back, Rage Nation. We are at it again. Going to do another React quit wire, as the people like to call it in the Discord. So this one we're actually talking about Som'er Teeth Jones versus against Misaki, and this is a lot of fun because Som'er just got a rework. I mean, we can see we have new abilities, specifically looking at the Bayou 2 card, looking at the other abilities on their cards like Demise, I'm done with this. So a lot of cool things. Now, the keyword is very interesting. So I wanted to react to it because you're going to see a lot of content probably coming out of Big Hat now, just because it's viable. It's pretty good, right? So I went ahead and I played a game against Misaki. So this wasn't the end score. You can see this is only through turn 4. But I played against Misaki. This was Misaki 1 versus Som'er Teeth Jones 1. And it was Covert Operations and Standard Deployment with Sabotage, Hidden Martyrs, Vendetta, Secret Meetup, and Set the Trap. So a decent, I think, Som'er pool. I think you're going to see Som'er do very well in pools that are on boards that are not cluttered, that are also on boards where you can move around pretty easily and get from point to point. And then finally, ones that have a lot of schemes that include scheme markers. I think that's going to where Som'er Teeth Jones is going to be very good as well. So I did save this because this was actually a Vassal game that I played against Dixon yesterday. And you can see this is kind of the board layout here. You can see this is I think it's the Altar of the Lost board for Vassal. You can see it has this huge altar in the middle, so that was kind of a pain in the butt. And then this is kind of where all the action ended up happening, just because Misaki was hitting and running. And yeah, I just had all my stuff up there as well, except for Bo Peep down at the bottom. So, but besides these trees and the buildings, pretty easy for Som'er's crew to get around. So I didn't feel too bad doing that. If there was some more thick terrain, or if it was really hard to get around in the middle of the board, I might not have liked playing Som'er here, but it was pretty good. So going back to the actual game, my point of this game was to try out the new Som'er Teeth Jones 1, and to try out, really my main focus was Cranky, Som'er, with summoning specifically. I wanted to see how good or bad the summoning was. And then I also wanted to get a feel for Lenny. And I also wanted to feel this thing that they struggled with before is you couldn't bring a lot of out of keyword hires with Som'er before this buff. So I wanted to bring a couple of out of keywords models just to see, like, okay, I mean, can Som'er play a game without being purely keyword? And that was my objective for this, right? This is what I was trying to learn. So I ended up bringing Som'er. Obviously, I put 12 cups of coffee on him, just for a couple of reasons, just because getting focus for his gun and stuff like that. Also, if people wanted to get in on him, he would shut down their bonus. 2 Skeeters, obviously, Old Cranky, Lenny Jones, a Bayou Smuggler, because I think a Bayou Smuggler is actually going to be pretty good. Probably better when you bring the White Rabbit Company, but I wanted to see how it felt with them there without the White Rabbit Company, because they do have a 2-inch reach, so they can help deny covert ops. Bo Peep, just because she has 2-inch reach, helps kind of unpack the crew a little bit. Uncle Bog, just because Uncle Bog's probably one of the top 3 models in Bayou right now. Really good. I'll talk about him into great effect. And then I brought Ruffles just for profit. I was going to try to push models off the markers and maybe get one scheme or so towards later in the game. But we'll see how that went as well. Dixon ended up bringing Misaki 1, Shang, Atoto, Minoko Ray, Jin Bakara, 2 Thunder Archers, a Terracotta Warrior, and a Katashiro. So this is a really solid list. I enjoyed playing against this quite a bit. Misaki's always interesting to play against. And I think Dixon is starting to get a good feel for it, especially with Dixon in the chat with Solomon and Barbara there. But yeah, this is a good list for Misaki. I don't know how I feel about Manuka Ray, but the Paper Warriors are annoying. And actually, Dixon didn't bring a Katashiro. This is on there because that ended up getting hired, or summoned. So that actually wasn't on there during the hire phase. Okay, I want to go back. There we go. Oops, go back. Left the game. So really interesting. I was worried about just the hit and run capability of, there we go, of Misaki, just because those shadow markers are a problem. If I was playing this competitively, I would have brought something to remove markers more consistently. And actually, after talking with people and after looking at this board, so this was kind of where we ended the game, right? And you can see there are so many markers. There's tide markers, there's shadow markers, there's corpses, there's scrap. And I think Gluttony would have been really good in this game. That's one thing that after thinking about it, I was like, man, Gluttony pushing some of these models just into these markers and just taking 4 damage would have been really good. And also remove some of these shadow markers. So that's one thing that I think Gluttony probably has some play with a lot of this Bayou stuff for Big Hat. So let's kind of go into my list here. So I did choose Sabotage and I chose Hidden Martyrs. Dixon, I think, ended up taking Hidden Martyrs and I can't remember. I'm guessing it was Vendetta. We didn't talk about it, but I'm pretty sure he had Vendetta on Lenny, which makes sense to me. But my list in general, let's kind of go through what I brought and how they played out. So I wanted to feel out, because I think I'm going to like Lootmonger quite a bit, which I'm going to have to go to the actual new cards. So if we scroll down to Lootmonger, I think I'm going to like him quite a bit. His stats are better. He has 12 hit points, which is great. This Ransack, Spot the Goods, great. Gremlin Raid, fantastic. His Sack of Loot, really good. Just putting out a lot of scheme markers because your opponent's going to cheat, and it's a 10-inch aura that people, have to avoid essentially. And he even has a kind of a once per turn summon, right? He can turn one of the Bayou Gremlins that he can summon and he can replace it into another model that has that demise ability, which is really good. And Dixon did confirm he did have Vendetta. He always has lust in his heart, so I am definitely not surprised with that. But I know I like Lootmonger because he hasn't changed a ton from this besides getting Bayou 2 cards and this summon. I should say this replaced for his bonus. But I knew I was going to like him because he's kind of very similar of what he was. And now that the whole the whole keyword got better and balanced, I know I'm going to like him. I'm going to probably put him on the board probably Monday if I can get him painted. So I wanted this game specifically to focus on Som'er 1. And the things that I really wanted to focus on was his boomer. I wanted to see how good the shotgun was, right? Because it's 2-3-4 with the blast and double blast on the end of it. He has a trigger for everything, so they're all good triggers too. I mean, if you look at the triggers on the boomer, it has coordinated attack. It's good, especially if you get Lenny in there. Daze, putting out stun, turns out pretty good. Loot 'em, drawing 2 if you have friendly models within Big Hat models within 2 inches of the target. And then puncture. So if you get puncture, you can go ahead and, easy get into that double blast territory. And then I also wanted to see how good this gang up was. So I wanted to see, okay, if I'm going to summon, I got to target an enemy model. How is it going to feel putting, X amount of models into it? You can get like 5 Bayou Gremlins with, I think, a 13. So that was something I wanted to try if I got a 13, and I did, turns out. And Foul Mouth Motivation was fine. It's always solid. It's not a bad bonus. Healing your stuff and giving it a focus is always good. Excuse me. So that was the 2 things I wanted to focus on. And I will say the shotgun was money, right? This thing, like 2-3-4 doesn't sound very impressive. But when you're splashing onto stuff and you're doing 2-3 whatever damage to other things, it gets really impressive pretty quick. Not only that, But there's a lot of times where, well, there's twice specifically. Once where I summoned 2 Bayou Gremlins and 2 Skeeters, and I was able to put that up for Cranky's aura, which we'll talk about. I think Cranky's probably one of the best things in this new errata. Cranky's just amazing. But I wanted to see, okay, I have turn 1, I did it, and I got 5 Gremlins just right up in the face, right up around, I think it was around one of the Paper Warriors or something. And from there, I was able to shoot. I did some damage to the Paper Warrior, but then I also was able to draw a couple cards. So you have options to kill your Gremlins for profit, which is always good. And getting rid of the pass tokens is huge because since Dixon had Jin, I think there was one time he had like 7 pass tokens. So all my Bayou Gremlins got killed before they activated at some point throughout that turn. So that brought his pass tokens back down, and it drew me like 5 cards to help really start to do some damage and kind of win the day, if you will, at least early on. So I didn't focus on summoning anything else besides Gremlins and Skeeters in this game because I wanted to focus mainly on that mechanic of the pass tokens and the card draw and everything else that goes with it. So I'm going to, next game I am going to focus on trying to get things out there like, if I need it, the Banjanista, probably whatever the little swagger boys are, the, whatchamacallem, the goal boys, there we go. So work on getting those, and then Criers definitely too. Criers are really good, so I think it's worth trying to summon some of them early on, especially with distracted auras. So that's what I mainly focused on because, once again, like I said, I wanted to figure out this old Cranky ability, You Can Handle It, Sonny. So You Can Handle It, Sonny is the main focus of what I was trying to do with the summons in this because I wanted to set up where I had bodies where if Misaki came in and tried to like one-shot something, that I could discard a card to have it go ahead and take a swing on that instead. And against the Skeeters, it's even better because the Skeeters are defense 7. So if we scroll down here, they're defense 7. So Misaki stat 7, but she needs to go card for card with this when she hits it. So you're forced to kill, like Dixon says in the chat, either these Skeeters or the Gremlins because anything you target, as long as they're within 8 of Old Cranky, so as long as they're within 8 of him, and there's a minion of cost 3 or less within 4 of the target, so that means Gremlins or Skeeters, you have to hit them instead. And there's no restriction to that. There's nothing that would prevent you from like, oh, well, I have to see this with Cranky and then I have to see it with the model. It's like, no, Cranky just has to be within 8. He doesn't need line of sight. So he can be hiding behind a barrel. The target just has to be able to see the other model within 4 of it. So this happened a bunch, and it was hard for Dixon to kill my important stuff. It was hard for him until like turn 4 to really get into like Lenny, to get into Som'er. He got into Som'er turn 1 with Misaki, but I was able to kind of squeal away. But he took some damage. I think it was down like 6 hit points, so it wasn't for nothing. Yeah, and also something that I'm excited about is when the new Book of Malifaux comes out, we're getting these haberdashery hats or whatever they're called. Jebediah and the haberdashers. So these are only 3. So these are pretty good too, right? So kind of going to be excited to summon these up as well because they're not insignificant. So these can actually go out and kind of start to contest with things. So very excited to see these, and very excited for Jebediah as well. This model is going to be good. But getting back into what I picked. So that was my big focus with Cranky was, okay, how good is this? You Can Handle It, Sonny aura. And then I also wanted to kind of focus mostly on this Give Me a Hand kid, right? I wanted to focus on, okay, how good is this? And it was very good. It helped me kind of keep a Skeeter and keep Cranky in range for his You Can Handle It, Sonny ability. And late game, you can go sneak some scheme markers. So this is a good way for him to run breakthrough late game. Just a good way for him to do that. And also, I did get a cute hold down trigger onto onto a Toto, and then Som'er blasted in with his boomer to really put the damage on a Toto. It was kind of funny to watch that whole interaction. There's so many out of engagement, just ability with this crew. It's pretty good. And I didn't get much use out of Bayou 2 card in this game, mostly because, one, I didn't have as many big hat models as I think I usually will. So the cards I had, one, I flipped pretty good. So a lot of the stuff that I wanted to go off did. And if I was cheating, it was more for like suitor damage. So this game, I attribute that to drawing so many cards and then Bog filtering my hand. That's just what Bog does, right? I mean, if we go to Bog real quick. Skeeter. I'll talk about this Bayou Smuggler in a second because some people kind of looked at it like, really? But yeah, so off the path here with Bog is just really good. It just helps you filter your hand. There was a couple turns where I got like kind of a crap hand. And I was just like, okay, I mean, I'll use that to kind of just filter out my deck with Bog. If you get the Gremlin Table Manners trigger, you get to discard crappy cards on top of your deck as well. So there was a couple times I did that. Weary Road, his bonus, good for putting out a scheme marker for Som'er to use, for 12 cups of coffee, whatever you want to do with it. So just really good. Uncle Bog, if you haven't tried him and you're a Bayou player, buy this model and play it. It can go in almost any crew. The only one I've found trouble with is Zip 1, just because there's so much concealment and sputtering exhaust, and off the path is an attack action. So that is really going to make that difficult. But everywhere else, it's been fantastic. You could even force it in Zip and you'd be okay, but it just takes some planning. So other model that I want to talk about real quick, Bo Peep was fine. I almost feel like with some of these new models and crews and stuff, she's almost, for a lot of crews, getting outpaced. I feel like a lot of people aren't bringing her much anymore. And I see why, because there's a lot of unpacking, and I still like her with Sui and Pigs. And there's some other cases, like I like her with Maw for throwing people into pit traps, but there's a lot of things that I can see why people don't bring her, but she's still fine if you do. I don't think it's ever terrible to bring her. She is very killable. That's the only thing. And Covert, I like her because she has a 2-inch reach. Dixon's over there in the chat crying because I had all 4 13s, I think, in turn 2 or 3. He was very sad about it. But going back to the Bayou Smuggler, this is going to be better once I bring the White Rabbit Company with the crew, because specifically Lenny, because she has carry, or he when you bring the he version, but this hobo looking woman here, she has the ability to drag behind. So if she moves and there is a marker within 2 inches of it, the marker can come with her. So it's a move. It's not a walk. It's not a charge. It's any move. So there's a cute interaction where if you put a hat from the White Rabbit Company onto Lenny, and Lenny tosses, there he is. So Lenny gives a toss to the Bayou Smuggler. All of a sudden, if Lenny has a hat on, he's looked at as a ski marker. So he then chucks the Bayou Smuggler 10 inches, places Lenny base to base with the Bayou Smuggler at the end of that movement. So, I mean, that's a good, I don't know, casual 11 plus inches of movement for Lenny on the high end. And my Lord, this man, this Lenny Jones, I know he's not the hardest to kill. I know, let's go look at his real card, right? His new card, I should say. So I know he's not the hardest to kill. He is hard to wound. He does have 11, but you know, I will tell you, this whack and stick with sweeping strike and shove aside, and now he has flurry. It was good. In one activation, I killed Misako Ray and 2 of her paper dummies. And then I had 1 attack left. I think I had my flurry and I didn't have another target within 2 to kill. So I was just kind of like, all right, I guess I'm done with his activation. So yeah, really good. That whack and stick, 3, 4, 5. It's just solid. It's not going to, It's not going to always win you the day, but there's ways for this crew in keyword to ignore problems like hard to wound, armor, and stuff like that with the Banjanista. So even if you have a tough target, you could get the Banjanista, tell Lenny to, hey, ignore armor, and then you're just 3-4-5 just straight into a model. So really good. Not to mention, I did get a coordinated attack off with Lenny. I think that was into a Toto, and a Toto is really feeling that. So he's really solid. I like him. I don't know if you bring him in every game, but I feel like you bring him most times. He's just solid. And I just never hate having Lenny. 10 stones is a lot, but it's fine. You can summon the cheaper stuff when you need it. Let's see here. Anything else? Good old boy I didn't mess with. Didn't get Georginola off this game. The Gremlins didn't attack a lot. They basically were just there specifically for the cannon fodder. The fact that I just draw a card, get rid of the pass token that you got for them, and that was really good. There was a lot of interactions with, and sorry I got to scroll just because these aren't on the app yet. Yeah, there was a lot of cases where I could even blast into my own with the boomer gun with Som'er. There was lots of opportunities where I could just blast to kill one of those, and that way I got to draw a card. So lots of card draw in this, lots of ability to really create some unique situations. I didn't get an expert shot off because my hand was so hot and I was flipping so good that I didn't miss the things I was shooting at. So that felt really good. And it was like, oh, even if I do miss, then Lenny gets to take a swing on you. So that was just good, right? So as the game progressed, so this is where I want to go into the game and kind of things that happened. Here we are. Go back. All right. So as this game progressed, turn 1 and 2, I would say went pretty well for me. I was able to score, going back to the strats and schemes. I mean, I was able to score the covert ops just like Dixon was. I didn't score sabotage because I just couldn't positionally. Whenever I play new keyword, I don't focus a ton on schemes just because, excuse me, it's just I'm focusing on the abilities, the actions, and kind of the synergies of the crew. So I didn't really focus too much on the schemes to go get the sabotage, but I feel like I could have if I wanted to at some point. The problem that I ran into, though, is the list that I brought had some just non-bow synergies, right? It just, Ruffles ended up getting hunted down by Misaki, which I should have thought about, but I was thinking that, well, maybe I can keep him out enough on the flank that maybe Dixon won't harass it, but he did, because Dixon's a smart player. Uncle Bog was perfect. He did his job. Bo Peep, she was able to contest one of the bottom ones, but not well enough to kind of win the day. She basically was just there getting whittled down and eventually died to fire. The Bayou Smuggler was fine, but like I said, I'd feel better there with the White Rabbit Company into this specifically. So just looking at Bo Peep and Ruffles, it's like 13 stones I could have spent on something more useful in keyword, probably. Gluttony, like I said, I feel is going to be really good with it, which is awesome because I love Gluttony. He's such a interesting model, and he has a lot of interesting just play with this, just with how many markers there are, and he can heal himself a little bit and just causes problems for your opponent. So that's definitely going to be something I'm going to put into it. Yeah, I mean, Bo Peep did get me a point for the strat, but it was just, I feel like having a model that fit better for generally what I was doing would have been better. I just brought her just because it's like, she's decent. Just throw her in there, see what happens. But like I said, Bo Peep was going to die. Ruffles died before he could activate turn 2. The Smuggler died. Lenny died before he could activate turn 3. So by basically the start of turn 4, I had a half-dead Som'er. I had Cranky and Uncle Bog. So it's going to take some reps to figure out how to keep this crew kind of more survivable. I feel like a Spit Hog might have been okay here. Or even going out of keyword for like Bo Fishbacher could be really fun. So yeah, I'm definitely really interested in the playability of this crew. Looking at Dixon, kind of how his list performed, Misaki was alive and ticking. She did take some punishment, but Shang was alive, so that could have healed her back up. Toto was pretty close to dead. He might have died. Minako died. Jin was just being a jerk the whole time. This model, if you haven't seen Jin Bakara, you're going to see him in Explorers, but you're also going to see him in Last Blossom a lot, because in Covert, he's just mean. If you have any minions, he just tells the minion with undercover ability here. Let me move myself so you guys can see that a little bit. So with this undercover ability, he just says, hey, I'm going to unbury next to your minion model, and that minion model goes back to the deployment zone. So for Covert Ops, that just takes a model that was going to score and just gets rid of it. And then he has a decent gun because he gets positives for things that would normally give you a negative. And yeah, it's really, really good. So just a solid model. He gives you a pass token when this dude is buried. And I think maybe if you're in concealment, let's see here, where is it? During start buried or in concealment, you gain a pass token. Yeah, with Skulker. So just really good. So Jin's always good. Definitely bring them if you have the ability in a lot of cases. Thunder Archers were okay. They were kind of pinging and doing some damage. Terracotta was fine. That was a good hidden martyr target for Dixon. The Katashiro, when they get summoned by Minoko, are really good. I just kind of got lucky because I blasted onto Minoko to do a lot of the damage that killed her. So I was very happy that I was able to kill her without triggering that stupid defensive trigger to put the Karma Debt on you. So all in all, though, Dixon won this game, which is fine. But all in all, the rework for this is very good. I can start to see where the synergies and the playability of this crew are going to be very strong. I'm not calling it yet, but I do think even though I was able to do some really cool things with Som'er 1, like the shotgun was really good, the summons are good. Even though I was doing that, I can see me liking the Loot Monger a lot better. It's just, I like the fact that you can, when you remove a scheme marker, you can summon a Bayou Gremlin. I like that when your opponent cheats, you get to drop a scheme marker in base contact. And I feel like he's just a lot of fun. I just think I'm going to have a lot of fun with him. But I got to play games, get my games in to feel this crew out. It's different, but you're going to find that there's a lot of the same themes. There's a lot of killing your own models to get profit. There's a lot of just kind of getting a bunch of gremlins in an area and causing chaos. And like I said, there's a surprising amount of conditions this crew puts out. I didn't get opportunity to really get into it, but I did stun Misaki on one of the turns, and that was very, very good. Misaki not getting crit strike makes me feel very good. This boomer gun is insane. Like, it's not spiky damage, but the triggers are gold, especially when you set it up and you get those plays where you get to activate a model out of activation. So I liked what I saw here. And the next game, I'm going to try out the Loot Monger, and that'll be the next video that I put out for this React thing. Whenever I play a new keyword, which essentially Big Hat is the way it is, it's never about winning. It's never about trying to score my schemes and do very well. I always pick out abilities and actions and models that I want to focus on and learn those before I move into trying to figure out how the crew synergizes very optimally. So that's just something that I think when people play a new keyword, that's what they should focus on. Is I want to focus on getting a good activation with this model. I want to figure out what this looks like on the board, and then just kind of go from there. So let me know what you think about these new cards. Let me know what you think are some cool combos that would work really well with this new keyword and this new ability. It's not a new keyword, but I'm going to call it a new keyword. So yeah, just let us know in the comments. Let us know if you want to join the Rage Quit Wire Discord. That would be great. And then if you like what we're starting to do with a lot of this YouTube content, think about supporting us as a patron. We have a lot of patrons that do it because of the podcast, but trying to expand the YouTube channel a little bit, trying to provide more content, video content specifically. Think about becoming a patron. You can do that, patreon.com/RageQuitWire. You can do that for as little as $1, and we appreciate anything that you can do to help us out, because we like putting out Malifaux content and trying to work through some of these cards, because when you look at some of these masters, it's good to talk out how these can interact with other models. So until next time, make sure that you guys flip cards, flip tables, and we will see you all later.